Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It's Energy Audit Thursday, and we're talking about suppressed emotions on today. Listen, you call it fatigue, but actually it's emotional constipation. I'm going to get into this conversation this morning because I think it's going to be good. This week, we're talking about the weight we carry in our exhaustion, right? Or we're talking about exhaustion. And I think that is going to be a good conversation and hopefully relevant for you on this morning. So, good morning. Good morning. Um, this week, we talked about overfunctioning with ourselves. We talked about overfunctioning with others. We talked about overfunctioning in our minds. All right. So, overfunctioning with ourselves on Monday, overfunctioning with others on Tuesday, and then overfunctioning in our minds, right, on yesterday. But today, we're going to talk about the weight we carry in our body, right? This emotional suppression, right? This one's is for, I think, everybody, right? Um, if you've been told that to get over it, to let it go, to move on, without being taught how to do that. And I think that's so important because a lot of times we have not been taught how to move on, right? We have not been taught how to really, I would say, allow our emotions to go through us. A lot of us are still trying to manage our emotions, um, and that could have you very detached. And if you grew up in a situation where there was some um, limited limited access to your emotions, meaning that you only could feel a certain emotion, sad, happy, joy. We have a spectrum of emotions that we go through, right? And um and so I think that this conversation is going to be very relevant. So again, if you've been told to get over it, let go, move through it without ever being taught, because here's the truth. You're, a lot of times people are saying that they're fatigued and tired, but truly they're emotionally constipated. And I like this word, emotionally constipated, because I do think it gives a visual for the stuckness of our emotions, right? The stuckness in your emotions. So I have to ask you, where in your body do you feel stress right now? Right? Is it in your shoulders? Is it in your chest? Is it in your jaw? Does your jaw feel tight, right? Your stomach? Listen, that's not random. That's your body holding emotions that you have not digested yet. All right. That is your body holding emotions that you have not digested yet. And I think it's important to look at our emotions as something that's very digestible. I think that we try to process our emotions, and emotions is more like digesting, right? It's more of a digestive process than it is a than it is processing. And I have to stop right here and say, we process thoughts. All right. So we get a thought, our mind goes through that thought, right? And we're structuring or strategizing like how to think about a thing and things like that. Emotions are different. Our thoughts, they take us through a process, step one, step two, step three, right? And we can manage our thoughts a lot better, right? Because we hear them, right? They're a little bit more tangible than our emotions. Our emotions is just like our digestive system, right? We take it in, right? We chew on it, right? We chew on an emotion. If it's sadness, if it's happiness, right? We swallow it, meaning we allow that emotion to come in, right? We don't bypass it, and then we allow the body to do what it's going to do. So to take so if you're eating, right, you're chewing the food up, and then you swallow the food, and then your body does what it's going to do. That's the intelligence of the body. That's the same way with our emotions, you guys. Like, one, we have to get into a narrative or find a narrative, right, that allows us to digest our emotions. And a lot of us are emotionally constipated because we are in situations, or we tell ourselves stories, right, that trigger, like, um, that triggers the stuckness, right? And so we have to start seeing our situations differently so we can make our emotions more edible. All right. So if you're like in a victim mindset, right? Or if you are feeling if the narrative is like from a victim mindset, like I can't believe, I can't believe, I can't believe, then you're emotionally constipating yourself, because that's like chewing on a tough steak and trying to swallow that. Right. So a lot of times we're not able to really digest our emotions because of the story that we have attached to the situation or experience that we've went through. And we haven't been able to let it go. Right. So unforgiveness, right? Holding on to the past. Those things stop us from digesting, the emotions that need to be digested. And so that's why, we're talking about emotional constipation on today. So let me tell you about a client I worked with. She came into my Zoom meeting and she was just like, I'm just exhausted. I've been up all night. I sleep, but I wake up tired. I rest, but I don't really feel rested. And I asked her, when was the last time you cried? Right? When was the last time you cried? And she looked at me confused, like, what does that have to do with anything? Right? When was the last time I cried? And when she said, well, what does that have to do with anything? I said, it has a lot to do with it. I said, it has everything to do with what you're going to, because here's what she didn't realize. And what many of us don't realize, our bodies don't just carry physical weight, they carry emotional weight, right? And every conversation that you don't have, every um, everything that you don't address, right? Every boundary that you don't set, every feeling that you swallow or you avoid, or you just tell yourself like it's not even worth saying, right? Every feeling that you judge as not as being like this not the right time to talk about that. Your body is holding it. All right, your body is holding it, waiting for you to give it permission to release it. And that, okay, is the exhaustion that a lot of us are feeling. It's not lazy. Excuse me. It's not lazy. That's not, excuse me. I know it just happened. All right. So every emotion that you have been holding, right? Every situation that you're not addressing, when you call yourself, I just don't like conflict. So I'm not going to address that. It's not even worth my time, right? When you do that, that emotion is still there, right? It's still there. And that's why you feel exhausted, right? Listen, this is not lazy. That's not a vitamin deficiency, you guys. It is your body's years and years and years of your body's not being able to digest the emotions, right? Or to say it a different way, the emotions that never get processed. All right. So in today's lesson, we're going to talk about the weight of suppressed feelings. All right. When your body becomes the storage unit for everything your heart couldn't say. All right, for everything your heart can say. I have a story. I was dating a guy, and I told this story before. I was dating a guy, and and he was doing his shenanigans, right? But I liked him. I really did. He kind of had a tug on me. And so I would, do all the stuff, right? Block him, yeah, say I'm not going to talk to you anymore. But he just had this way of just showing up. And yeah, and so I would talk to him again, or we would get back to talking or whatever. But this one last time, I started to feel it, right? I started to feel it, and I'm like, I'm not going to talk to you no more or whatever. And he called me, calling. You know how they do. They call, they text, they call, they text. And I'm like, what's up? So he called and he's saying everything that I wanted him to say, right? Like, I'm sorry, I'll do better, this, that, and the other. And I kind of start to smirk, right? Like I'm smiling because I'm just like, yeah, like I'm feeling like he gets it, right? He's going to do better. At that same moment though, like I see a visual in my head of my heart, right? And it's a heart, like it's literally like a red heart. It has two eyes, two stick legs, two arms, and I see this visual of my heart, and I see it go over like to my dresser, like go in my closet, get my suitcase out, go to my dresser and like start to like take the clothes and just put throw the clothes into the suitcase, right? So I'm seeing this kind of visual cartoon happen in my head where my heart is like going to the drawer and it's mad, and it's just throwing all of my clothes in it. I mean, it pushes the lid down, right? Closes all out of the suitcase and it just starts to walk away from me, right? Like, and it's looking back at me like, I'm just so upset with you. And it was like a trail, and it's like a cartoon that literally came in my mind. And it's like this trail. So as I'm smiling and talking to this guy on the phone and like about to go back in and go through that go through that pattern, at the same time I could see this cartoon that just came in my head about my heart. And when I saw that, I just got emotional, and I was just like, I can't do this. Thank you for calling me, but I can't do this. And I sat with myself on my bed that day and I just vowed that I would not ever put my heart in that experience anymore. And that was one of the things that really made me realize that something had to change. Like I had this pattern in my relationships where I would started, I would, we would get into it and then, we would break up and then we would get back together again, and I was like, I just got to break that. And I had to share that because I do think that that weight, that feeling, right? I probably always felt it, but at that point I was so apathetic, meaning I was so disconnected and so numb from my emotions that my mind literally had to say, how can we show her the weight or our exhaustion, right? Emotionally, my heart was like, how can I give her this visual of how exhausted I am? And it provided that for me. And that was a turning point in my relationships and how I started to build boundaries and things like that. So here's my why for this session. I created this lesson because too many of us were taught um, that emotional control equals emotional maturity. All right. We learned to stay strong, to keep it all together, to not be dramatic, right? Um, because I guess we learned to kind of be excellent or to avoid our emotions, right? And really manage everything but our heart. Right. And we've even heard things like the heart is deceptive and you don't owe people your feelings and all of those things. So this lesson is really about rehearsing the emotional backlog so that or releasing the emotional backlog so that your body can finally rest, right? So your body can finally rest, not from this physical exhaustion, but from the weight of these unfelt feelings that we haven't given ourselves permission to feel. So good morning, Latoya. How are you doing this morning? Good morning, Miss Hollis. How are you doing this morning? Uh, Good morning, big little brother. How are you doing this morning? All right, so here's my disclaimer for today. This lesson again is for educational purposes, educational informational purposes. It is not therapy or medical advice. Listening or participating in the conversation does not create a client therapy relationship with yourself and me, right? This lesson will help you, though, become aware of the unprocessed emotions that really live in your body, because awareness is the first step, right? It's the art of life, right? So we become aware, we release, and then we take a different action or tune into a different emotion, right? So this lesson is so that you can become aware of these unprocessed emotions, not to judge them. All right. And we know that again, awareness is the first step. So transformation happens when you take action by learning to feel safely, by expressing yourself honestly, and by releasing what you've been holding. All right. If you start to experience some emotional or physical distress as a consequence of this, or if you're feeling that, right, I would just say, hey, go get a therapist. It's time to talk to somebody. All right. So you can release those feelings. So you can release and start to really digest, right, your emotions. Right. So Miss Hollis said, bad habits, the heart will keep you stuck, you know. And she said, bad habits, the heart will keep you stuck. And I do feel like this relationship with the thank you for that comment, because I feel like this relationship that we have with our emotions, right? We have some judgments around them. Like I said, we have this idea that our heart is deceptive, not to really trust our emotions. And it's a part of who we are, you guys, but it is that part of who we are that we didn't get trained or learned how to manage because it was just shut down, right? Just shut down. Don't say nothing. Like I told you yesterday, you get a whooping, you can't cry, you get your feelings hurt, right? Coming up. It's like, you can't really cry, so you really don't learn how to unpack those emotions and allow them to move through us. So good morning. It is Thursday. It's Energy Audit Thursday. So let's take our breath. Right? No pressure, just your presence. We're going to inhale. My body is safe to feel. And exhale, I release what I've been holding. All right. I want to welcome you back to Life Lessons with Dr. Sheila Little. If you're new here, I'm Dr. Sheila Little. This is Project Life. Okay. Project Life Life Lessons is a part of Project Life. Project Life is where we turn theory into practice, where we turn awareness into alignment, and where we start healing, making healing a part of our habit. All right. Making healing a part of our habits. I am the creator of the Stop and Now method, the Stop and Now methodology. And what that is I help people stop their past, get present enough in their current place, right? In their it factor so that they can create a new future. So drop a word in the chat. Let me know how you're feeling this morning. How are you doing? I'm doing pretty good this morning. I got up, I started doing what's called dry brushing, right? You got to do it in the morning. So I'm trying this dry brushing out to really get back in tune with my body and to kind of touch on it. So, dry brushing helps your lymphatic system. So it helps to move the fluids in your body, right? And it's a part of really helping the nervous system to feel safe again, right? So I know that my body has a lot of emotion stored in them just from the physical abuse, the mental abuse, the overlook, the rejection, and all of those things for years, right? That I didn't allow myself to feel because I just thought they didn't matter, right? People gonna be people, things are gonna happen, get over it, right? Not realizing how intelligent the body is and how that weight, right, will seep into other areas. And I tell people that your emotions is like smoke, right? So they don't just stay in one area. So I want to give you an analogy about like if you're frying fish. If you fry fish in the kitchen, you smell that in the bedroom, like that scent permeates, yeah, it seeps right through every area of the house, so much so it gets in your clothes and everything. And that's how our emotions are. So we can't be feeling a way in one part of our life and not feel like it's not going to impact other areas. And if you think about your emotional load, right, over the years, the weight that you carry emotionally, right? Maybe it's time for you too to start to do some things to regulate your nervous system so that your body can start to really start to digest these emotions. And hopefully, this life lesson will help you in that process. So let's do our body scan again. If you're feeling anxious, right, you're gonna scan from the top of your head down. If you're not feeling as energized, right, we're gonna scan from the bottom up. But either way, we're going to imagine the sun at the top of our head. So let's feel present in our bodies. All right, feel the warmth, right, starting at your feet and grounding you, right? So, and then moving up your legs, right, and your hips, right? So this sunlight is pouring into you, this kindness, this compassion, right? Breathe that into your stomach. All right. This is a place where a lot of our emotions live in our solar plexus, right? We get that kind of weary feeling, that kind of sick feeling in our stomach, right? And then rise to our chest, right? This is where grief and joy both rest. Okay, so we're going to feel that. And then into our shoulders, right? And then feeling that drop to our fingers, coming up our arms, right? And then, like, feeling that on our shoulders. This is where the weight of responsibility is the heaviest, right? So a lot of us have back tension, a lot of us are humped over, right? Because we're carrying a lot of responsibility and emotions on our shoulders, all right, up our necks, where words get stuck. This is our throat chakra. right? And so I talk about how the throat chakra and the solar plexus, they work together, right? And so a lot of times our words get stuck. So let's soften our jaws, okay, up our face, softening our ears, right? And how we hear on today, softening our eyes, all right, up our to the top of our heads, all right, activating our brain, and then just allowing that kindness or love or forgiveness to just pour over us on this morning. So take one more breath. Again, we're going to inhale. It is safe to feel. And then we're going to release. I release what my body has been holding. All right. All right. Now, who this lesson is for today? This lesson is for you if you're exhausted even after sleeping. This lesson is for you if you have unexplained tension, headaches, or body pain. This is for you if you cry at random moments or can't cry at all. This is for you if you feel numb, irritated, or disconnected from yourself. Listen, this lesson is for you if you've been taught to control your emotions instead of digest them. All right, to control your emotions instead of digest them. So, a powerful quote. You call it fatigue, but it's actually emotional constipation. All right, so let's talk about it. We're talking about the weight of emotional or suppressed emotions or suppressed feelings, all right? When your body becomes like in a sense the graveyard for your emotions that you never really gave permission to live. All right? That is a very important image to really give our emotions. All right. Listen, you've learned early, way early. We all have that. A lot of us have that emotional control equals strength, right? So holding back your tears, right? Yeah, holding all of that emotion in, that makes you strong. So guess what? You swallowed your anger, you smiled through the sadness, right? You push down the grief. But here's what happens in the body, all right? Emotions don't disappear. Even when you ignore them, they just get stored. All right. They get stored in your shoulders, again, in your arms, in your stomach, in your jaws, right? In your chest, in your lower back, right? And the cost of that is your energy, your peace, and your ability to truly access joy. All right. So I had this client, she came to therapy complaining about chronic headaches. All right. She had been to the doctor, tried medication, even changed her diet, started to exercise. And guess what? Nothing was working for her. So I asked her, what are you angry about? Right. What is it? Do you have any anger in you? Right. Do you feel any anger about anything? And she looked at me like, I ain't angry. What is there to be angry about? I said, you may not be angry, but maybe your body is. Right? Maybe your body is angry because here's what she didn't realize. Anger is held in the body. Anger is held in the body. When anger is held, it will show in the body. When grief is held, it will show it. Let me say it like this. When anger is held, it will show up in tension. When grief is held, it will show up in fatigue. When fear is held, it will show up in anxiety. All right. So we spent weeks really unpacking her anger. And what we realized is that she was angry about her job. She had some anger around some family dynamics. She was really angry about her unmet needs and her ability to meet those and really feeling like she was behind in life. And so she was angry at her family members because she felt like they hadn't prepared her for the things to really live this thing called life, right? As we started to unpack that, and as she started to express that in a very compassionate, not judgmental way, guess what? The headaches, they started to fade. They started to go away. All right. Not because she was taking more medication, but because she finally gave her body permission to what? To feel and not store that. So I want to say it again. Anger shows up in tension. All right. Grief shows up in fatigue and fear shows up in anxiety. We don't have to judge those emotions though. Those are emotions that will come up in our everyday life. All right. We're grieving something, not just the death of a person, right? But we can grieve the idea of a relationship. We can be grieving our old job. A lot of people are on a healing journey, and they're grieving their old life, right? Because a lot of that had to be, a lot of times you had to naturally, right, start to change. And as you're changing, then your relationships are changing. And so this idea of being in grief is, we can be in grief. All right. So we don't have to judge it. We don't have to run away from it. Right. There's things and experiences that's happening in our life that are, I guess I would say, that are triggering fear. Right. So we don't have to judge that. But when we know your body is so intelligent that it's telling you, like, hey, you're not processing this, you're not digesting this. Right. When we start to feel tired, when we start to feel the tension, and when we start to feel that anxiety. All right. All right. So I want to be honest about, share something about me. I grew up in an environment where emotions really wasn't safe, like crying, right? It really wasn't allowed. Me and my brother, laughter a lot of times wasn't allowed, right? Me and my brother, we had this thing where we were just so silly, right? But we got whooped for being silly. So if my grandma and my granddaddy did something, grandparents, they could be funny, right? Like they do stuff, say stuff that's funny, say stuff that's weird. So we would laugh at inappropriate times and, get in trouble for it. All right. And I told you about me crying, right? There was times where I couldn't cry, or I cried so much that I got judged for it, right? I kind of got bullied, by my older aunties and my younger aunties and uncles, right? Like, you'll cry, baby, cry, whip your eye, right? Um, and then anger, right? You couldn't be mad as a young kid because that was a form of disrespect. So even if you had some anger or some upsetness, right, you couldn't do that. Sadness was a burden on my family, so you couldn't feel sad, right? So I learned to really just swallow all my emotions, and my body held on to that, right? I talked about it yesterday. I developed emphysema as a child, right? So I became so irritated that I was this very emotional person, this very creative person, and I couldn't access that. At some point, I had to detach from that. And so I had eczema really bad as a kid, right? My ears was breaking out, my neck was breaking out. I just had patches all over my body. So by the time I was 30, right, carrying all of that and having this goal, right? Because I'm like, listen, this is not going to be my life. I'm going to change, right? So I'm running away from all of that, getting these degrees, sitting on boards, becoming this professional woman. By the time I was 30, I was diagnosed with those chronic daily headaches. All right. They just wouldn't go away. It wasn't until I really started to meditate, sit with myself, because even the medication that I was taking at the time, it would just put me to sleep. It wasn't solving the problem. I mean, I still was working at the same job, right? So something had to switch. And so I had started to meditate. All right. I started to sit with myself, really learn how to breathe. And finally I started to feel, okay, feel my way through life. Right. And when I started to feel, things started to change, right? Relationships started to shift, right? My relationship with myself, my relationship with my kid's father, my relationship with my job, my relationship with my body, right? All of those things started to shift. And I would say I started the journey, right, of healing. I think that there was always some awareness that something had to change, but I just didn't know how. And I was thinking my way through that. How do I change this? How do I change this? And again, thoughts are not the only way that we solve problems. We have to learn how to really allow our emotions to be a part of this process. All right, to be a part of this process. So here's my mirror. Here's the mirror moment for you. I want you to ask yourself, what emotion have you've been holding that's making you tired, right? So ask it, like, what emotion have you been holding to make you tired? That's making you tired. Now take a breath and let that sit in your body and notice where you feel it, right? Is it anger? Is it grief? Is it sadness? Is it disappointment? Is it resentment? Is it bitterness? And most importantly, where do you feel that in your body? All right. We don't have to judge it, but I think that it's good for us to know, because when we can know, then we can know how to release it, all right, and sit with that. I think that emotions are so important because a lot of times we think, again, that this emotion is this bad thing, all right, I remember, before I get to 5 things I want that your body wants you to know, I remember when I first started to meditate. And I talked about this. I put it in the chat yesterday because Sal made a comment about the lesson yesterday, and I commented on that. And I talked about when I first started meditating. I'm in my house that I've lived in at that point for like 7 years, right? It's only me. And I lay on my couch. And as soon as I close my eyes, I could feel anxious, right? It's just like this sense of anxiousness, like something's going to happen to me, right? I'm here alone. Like all of these thoughts just flood in, you know. And so I'm like, one eye open, one eye closed, trying to, meditate. And it was as if I was a stranger, like there was a stranger in my house, or somebody was going to come in and get me when I started that process. And what I realized over time is that I was the stranger. I was the stranger in my own house, in my own body. And when I closed my eyes and it was time to be with me, right, that was very strange. And that was very much anxiety producing. It was scary, right, for me to close my eyes and now be with these thoughts. Now, there were times where I definitely had closed my eyes, right, and thought of the thoughts, but I wasn't closing my eyes to get present in the moment. I was closing my eyes as a form of shutdown. I was closing my eyes as a form of disconnect, like I'm just tired of this, and I'll just close my eyes and, keep myself from crying, right? And so I would just, allow the thoughts to take over. But this particular day, it's like I'm gonna sit, be present, try to feel my feet. Because at the time it was like, feel your feet. I'm like, I don't understand what you're saying, feel your feet. Like I, you know, and it had me move through the routine was supposed to like get mindful in your body, and I'm like, I don't even know what you mean, right? And so I started guided meditations and things like that, because what I realized is that just me closing my eyes on that couch, that put my body in more fight or flight. So I started to do like a guided meditation. I went to YouTube and I started to do like body scans and things like that. And then having that music and a voice that was guiding me, it helped me to feel safer to truly start to do the meditation and things like that. And when I started to feel safer with that, now I can just close my eyes and do that. So I just don't want you to feel like this situation of getting in your body and feeling your emotions and digesting is an overnight process. Like when you first start off, your body probably will start to scream and it probably will get scared, right? And this is why it's good to get a therapist and, maybe do some guided meditations to help you in this process, and not just like jump in and basically scare yourself, right? Especially if you grew up in environments, again, that were trauma ridden, right? I grew up in a domestic violence environment. So, even to the day, like if I hear a thump on a wall or something like that, it would take me back to a time where my mom, husband was beating her or something like that. And, I can hear it happening in the next room of that thump. Or if I hear that, that's kind of like the first image I get. And I have to remind myself that, hey, you're safe, right? Right. So I don't want you to think that even though body scans that you're doing, if you're not feeling your body, that this is like, you should know how to do this. It's a practice, you guys. If you've never dribbled a basketball before and you go get the ball, right, you're not going to be dribbling like Kobe Bryant, or, you're not going to be dribbling like Stephen Curry, right? You're not even probably going to be dribbling like the high school basketball player, right? But if you do that every day and you learn how to dribble the ball, right, eventually you will learn how to manage that ball. And anything you do in life is like that. When you cook, it's like that. When you first start off cooking, you're not the best cook, right? But you learn, right, how to do that. And that's the same approach and the same compassion that we bring, right, into this building this relationship with our bodies and building this relationship with our emotions so that they can start to be digested. So it's not something that just happens overnight, okay? If that makes sense, put a heart in the chat. All right. So here's 5 things your body wants you to know: that your body is saying, I'm not broken, I'm just full. All right. Your body is telling you, I'm not broken, I'm just full. Your body isn't malfunctioning, you guys. It's holding everything that you just never processed. All right. Fatigue is the symptom and suppression is the cause. When there's a universal law, right? Called cause and effect, or for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? So when you do something like suppress your emotions, we have to know that there's an effect, that comes with that. We can't just store all these emotions over years and years and years and think they're just going to go away. All right. That's not how that happens. Your body also wants you to know that your attention is my language. So headache is equals mental pressure, shoulder pain equals carrying too much, stomach issues equals undigested emotions. Listen, your body speaks in symptoms what your heart can't say in words. All right, your body speaks in symptoms what your heart can't say in words. So the tension that you feel in your body is your emotions language. And so connecting, like, okay, when you get a headache, sometimes instead of, I mean, you can get a Tylenol or something like that, but maybe asking yourself, like, what am I thinking about? What tension do I have there? When you're feeling back pain and things like that, asking the question that would be relevant to that, because our body is speaking to us. All right. Number 3, your body is saying, I need you to feel, not fix. I'm going to say that one again. Your body is saying, or your emotions are saying, I need you to feel, not fix. You can't think your way through grief, you guys. You can't strategize your way through anger. At some point, you have to just let the body feel it, right? And I know that we're trying to bypass our emotions, right? My cousin called me last night and she told me she just got this new job, and she's taken on a lot of responsibilities and she's very grateful for that. But her old job was good too, right? And she was in a good space and she was living very well. And in that time, I said, hey, it's okay to grieve your old life. She had just got herself together. She got her own apartment. And she was like, it's so interesting you said that, because, I just was talking to, her friend about that, about how she's grateful for this situation, but she does miss, her old town and her apartment and all of those things. All right. So we can't just bypass our emotions. It's okay to feel those things. Okay. And that doesn't mean that it's emotions is not like a right or wrong thing. They're just the thing that our body does that moves through us. All right. Your body is saying, or your emotions are saying, crying isn't a weakness, it's a release. Listen, tears are how your body detoxes the stress hormones. Okay. So when you cry, you're literally releasing cortisol levels. All right. That's not fragility, that is biology. So crying is a way of your body releasing toxins. So it's okay to cry. Now, again, I know that you've been taught for years, don't cry, that they don't deserve your tears, and sometimes you just don't even know how to cry. I mean, it was years that I was just like, I want to cry. I feel it, right? It's like right there, but I can't touch it, right? I had to so disconnected from my tears. And I knew it, like I felt it. It was a time, you guys, so you know how you cry, and when you were little and you would get those, right? You would get that, right? It was a time in my adult life where I had that, where I would just, right? But I wasn't crying, where I wasn't physically crying, but my body was going into that, like I was crying. And that was my sign to say, oh, you're emotional about something. Right, let's sit down, let's be with that. Let's play some music, let's watch a rom-com, like anything I need to do to activate this emotion, to get close enough to it, to borrow somebody else's experience, like a rom-com film or something like that, to really release this emotion. All right. So this is not, again, fragility, you guys. It is biology. Number 5, numbness is, your body is saying, numbness is a defense, not a destination, you guys. So numbness is a defense mechanism. It is in the polyvagal theory. Numbness is emotional detachment. Okay. Good morning, Sal. How are you doing this morning? Right. If you can't feel joy, it's because you're blocking pain. You can't selectively numb, you guys. When you shut down one emotion, guess what? You shut them all down. And so it's amazing to me when I meet people and they're like, no love, I ain't got time for that. Like, you're gonna have to do a lot of things to get me to love you. And it's like, well, you just can't shut down like one emotion, right? And think that you're going to have access to these other emotions. or I don't got time to be feeling sad or angry. Like, listen, either your light is on emotionally or it's off, right? We don't get to choose like, oh, well, I'm not going to feel this feeling, but then I'm going to have access. That's not how the mind works, right? So either we're in relationship with all our emotions or we're not in relationship with our emotions. All right. And we want to get in a relationship with our emotions. All right. So the happiness you want to feel that you feel like you don't have access to, the joy that you feel that you feel like you don't have access to, the inspiration and motivation that you feel that you don't have access to. A big part of that's because you don't have access to your emotions. And you're trying to go in and pick out like a bag of Skittles, you trying to pick out the red and the yellow ones because you don't eat the purple and green. But see, emotions is not like a bag of Skittles. The bag of Skittles can be like your thoughts, right? Like you can pick out the red thoughts and, pay attention to those, but that's not how emotions work, right? It's not like, oh, I'm just going to pick out the happy stuff and then you can leave all the sad stuff. That's not how that works. We got to take it all in. Right? It's like seasoning the food. Once you put the season on the meat, you can't take the pepper off and then leave the salt there. That's not how that works. And we have to really start to tell ourselves a different story about our emotions, you guys. All right. If that makes sense, put a heart in the chat. All right. Because again, you can't selectively numb. When you shut down one emotion, you shut them all down. All right. And here's some insight I want to share with you. You're wrestling with emotions that you never processed. All right. The ones you minimize, the ones you spiritualize, because sometimes we spiritual bypass our emotions, the ones we intellectualize instead of feeling. All right. So we either minimize an emotion, right? That's not important. We'll spiritualize it. I prayed about that. All right. Or we will intellectualize it. Think about it. All right. All of those are stopping us from feeling. Listen, because emotional suppression doesn't just exhaust you mentally, you guys, it exhausts you physically. So your body is working overtime to really hold what you won't release, what you won't allow yourself to feel and release. And acknowledging it, becoming aware of these emotions and then releasing those, right? And then taking a different action is the art of life. All right. The ART of life. That is a trademark that I have. And when we can become more aware of our emotions, just sometimes the awareness will pop the light on. All right. The real value in knowing this is because when you give yourself permission to feel, your body can finally start to rest, you guys. Again, working with a client, she said, when I stopped pretending that I was fine, my body stopped screaming. And her body was screaming in pain and headaches and fatigue and anxiety. And those things slowly start to go away. All right. And studies support this because studies show that suppressed emotions actually increase cortisol levels. It disrupts sleep, it weakens immunity, and it manifests as chronic pain. All right. Emotional expression, on the other hand, reduces stress hormones and activates the parasympathetic nervous system, you guys. And the parasympathetic nervous system is where we go into calm and creativity. Listen, your body wants you to feel light, not heavy. Don't you want the same thing? A body that's rest a body that rests, not one, don't you want a body that rests, not one that is always on guard? Listen, you have what's called your reticular activation system. It's on guard all the time. You don't have to be. It's picking up on the things that it needs to pick up on or that you're telling it to pick up on. All right. You being on high alert and looking for the red flags, or you being on high alert, protecting yourself from feeling emotions, that is not stopping you from feeling. You still have feelings. Now, they may bypass your senses, but they're being stored somewhere in your body. Listen, being able to feel is not emotional weakness. It is actually emotional freedom. And a lot of us are talking about manifesting the life we want and, desires and all of that stuff. Those things are emotional and energetic things, just as more as they are thoughts, right? So where our attention goes, our energy flows. We say that with our thoughts. But a part of manifesting and pulling the life that you want is emotional. It is feeling again. All right. And maybe you are going to have to go through some uncomfortable feelings, right, to get there, but you save. It is okay. You can manage those. All right. You can manage those. All right. So we're talking about energy and emotions today. It's Energy Audit Thursday. And I think that this lesson really fits well, right, for this because your energy is directly tied to how you digest or process, right, your emotions, right? It's your energy is in direct response to how you allow your emotions to digest, similar to food. You eat, right? And your food gives you energy. When you allow your emotions to digest, it will give you a level of energy, a level of freedom, a level of release, a level of lightness. All right. So here's 5 essential things that I think is important to know about suppressed feelings. Suppression isn't a strength. All right. It's storage. You think you're handling it, but your body is holding it. Right. And I talk about that chemical response that happens in your mind when you hold an emotion or you don't let it digest, then there's a neuropeptide that is stored in your body. All right. And over time, those neuropeptides, they collect together, right? And that is what's causing the symptoms. So we have to learn how to release those. All right. Your body keeps the score. All right. So even if your mind forgets, your body will always remember. All right. Trauma, grief, and anger, it all gets stored, right? Until you digest it. All right. Again, emotions is a part of life. So, grief, anger, joy, happiness, sadness, anxiety, all of these are emotions that we have to build a different relationship with. Emotional constipation is real, right? It's real, right? Just like your digestive system needs to release waste, your emotional system needs to release feelings, you guys, right? And when you don't, you get backed up. And a big important reason why it needs to release feelings because you're here today. And it's some gift for you today. And it's a situation here today for you to feel through, right? That could be a grief. That could be a happy moment. That could be something joyful that you can't feel because you're constipated, right? So we need to let that move through you so that you can be present enough today to take in the matter of the day, the emotions of the day, the hug that you feel today, the conversation that you have with your kids today. So you can be present in that and feel that for what it is today and not be stuck in this emotional place because every time you engage, you're stuck in this emotion. So you see that in every place, in everybody. You're stuck in anger. So you're angry with your kids, your mate, your boss, and you're wondering why I keep meeting the same people. Why is it just, why am I experiencing the same emotion? Because you're stuck in it. You got to release it and then expand your emotional capacity so you can feel different emotions. All right. Feeling is healing, you guys. You can't heal what you don't reveal. That's what Jay-Z said. But you really can't feel what you won't allow yourself to heal. At some point, you have to stop managing and start releasing. And releasing is feeling it. All right. It has to move through you. And sometimes that's a great feeling, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes you're going to cry, and sometimes you're going to laugh, right? But this is a relationship that's going to be present for the rest of your life. All right. It's no, you're not going to outrun emotions. You're not going to outrun bad emotions, sad emotions, grief. There's no time in life where you're going to outrun that, right? Even Jesus came, right? Yahshua Messiah came and he wept, right? The God man, right? And he even had to cry. All right. And I'm sure he laughed and I'm sure he joked and I'm sure he felt all sorts of emotions. He even felt anger, right? He flipped over the table in the churches, right? So he even demonstrated emotion. So this idea that we are bigger than our emotions and that they shouldn't be a part of our life, it's just not true. All right. And last but not least, your nervous system needs emotional digestion. So when you feel safely, your body shifts from fight or flight to rest and digest. All right. So your body actually switches to rest and digest. And this is where healing happens, and not just healing of your past, but your capacity to take in the moment, your capacity to desire different things and take the lessons so that you can grow in your future, right? Right. Again, this relationship with our emotions is not going anywhere. It's with us for the rest of our life. So we might as well, right, build a healthy one with them. All right. Um, so our promise verse today, right? John 11:35. Jesus wept. Jesus wept. No, I think it's interesting when that was, what you had to say over your food. Jesus wept, right? Um, but this idea of Jesus weeping, this is the shortest Bible verse, right? But it's one of the most powerful. Jesus, Yahshua the Messiah, the healer, the teacher, he wept, you guys. He cried, right? Not because he couldn't handle it, not because he was weak, but because he was human, all right? And if Yahshua Messiah could weep, then so can you, all right? The God in you, your body, your spirit, knows that tears are sacred. All right. They're not a sign of failure. They're a sign of being fully alive. And neuroscience supports this by saying when you cry, your body releases oxy, I can't even say that word right now, and endorphins that are natural painkillers. All right. Tears also remove stress hormones from your system. All right. So crying isn't a weakness. It's biology detox. All right. All right. So in modern terms, this verse is saying your body knows how to heal, right? But you have to give it permission to do that. All right. Your body knows how to heal, but you have to give it permission to do that. Good morning, Dawana. How are you doing, beautiful sister? I love you. All right. Um, so our promise verse. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds, right? This is Psalms 147:3. Here's a good interpretation of that. Notice it says he heals the brokenhearted, not the ones that pretend not to be broken. All right. You can't heal what you don't acknowledge, you guys. A lot of us are praying prayers to God. And again, we're not coming as we are. That's another verse in the Bible. And that has way more to do with as you are as a human being than it has to do with your clothing, right? Or what you got on your feet, or how you got your hair, or how much money you got. It's come as you are. And in a sense, it's like, be honest. All right. So it says that he heals the brokenhearted, healing the brokenhearted, not the ones who pretended not to be brokenhearted. Listen, you can't heal what you won't acknowledge. The God within you, your body's wisdom, knows where you're wounded. All right. But it only can heal it when you bring it to light. That is your divine superpower. Right. If you look at truth as your divine superpower, right? And you match that with your language, your words, then you create an atmosphere for healing to happen, for the shift to break through. Okay. Dewana said he does. He healed my broken heart. I had to allow him to. I had to allow him to do so after my son was killed. He carried me. He sure did. And he's still carrying you now, sis. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Um, because our in coming clean, right, about the grief that Dewana, coming clean about your grief, coming clean about your happiness, coming clean about all of your emotions. Listen, God is able to heal that. There's a mechanism in your body. Listen, when you acknowledge and express your emotions, your brain's frontal cortex, the regulator system, it actually activates. And then this is what helps you to digest the emotions instead of storing them in trauma. So when you acknowledge how you feel, there's a mechanism in your body, in your prefrontal cortex, that then will activate, that will help you move the trauma out your body. But if you like out of sight, out of mind, then that you're not going to activate that part of your brain to even help you see what God has already done for you. All right. So in modern terms, you don't have to carry this alone, you guys, but you do have to acknowledge that it's there. All right. You do have to acknowledge that it's there. All right, so let's do our intention for our Bible verse. We started adding intentions to this part. So I want you to place your hand on your heart and one on your stomach. Take a deep breath, hold it in, exhale fully. Now speak this intention out loud or silently to yourself. I release the lie that I have to be the strong one all the time. All right. I release the lie that I have to be the strong one all the time. Okay. I receive the truth that feeling is healing. Okay. I give my body permission to release what it's been holding. I give my heart permission to speak. And I am safe. I am safe to feel. And I am held as I am healed. All right. It is safe to feel. I am safe to feel. And it is held as I heal. All right. Now take 3 breaths. All right. And notice if there's any shifts that happen in your body, in your shoulders, in your mind. If nothing happens, that's okay. Know that your body received it in faith. All right. If you did notice it, notice that's the shift. And that's how we release. All right. All right. Now I gotta ask you, how does it feel if your body, or how does it feel in your body to know that you don't have to hold all of these emotions anymore? Okay. Right. So let's put today's lesson into practice. This is our integration section. I want you to identify one emotion that you've been suppressing and name it. I want you to ask yourself, where in my body do I feel this? And then give yourself 5 minutes to feel it. Not try to fix it, not analyze it, just feel it. And I think that that is a thing that I really do need to talk about more. Feeling something is not fixing it. Feeling something is being with it. Being. And the first thing that we want to ask is, what do I need to do? Just sit with it. Breathe. Use your mechanism that's giving you life right now. Breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. And if you want to do something, set a timer for 2 minutes or 3 minutes and just be with that emotion. All right. Be present with it and watch how it will move. All right. You don't have to do anything or fix it. All right. So give yourself 5 minutes to feel it, not fix it, not analyze it, just feel it. All right. Your journal prompt for today. What emotion have I been holding that's making me tired? All right. And then here's your energy audit, your energy release audit. This is where we fill in the blank in the weight we carry. We're doing these audits to fill in the blank. If you want the weight we carry journal, right, make sure you DM me. Those should be coming out this weekend. So we'll have them for you next week. All right. That is a 30-day away we carry in life. And I think that is a fabulous journal that you can get the physical form of it. All right. So I'm tired. So here's your audit questions. I'm tired of pretending blank didn't hurt. I'm tired of pretending blank didn't hurt. So what are you tired of pretending didn't hurt? All right. The emotion that I've been avoiding is okay. Where do I feel that emotion in my body? Or where I feel this emotion in my body is where? Okay. One way I can release it safely is to do what? Blank. All right. And then freedom for me would feel like what? Now, again, if you can't answer these questions, I would strongly say go get a therapist, join Project Life at sheetalittle.com, sheetalittle.com/life or shapingsolutions.org, right? Go sign up for the project, right? And there we do coaching labs. We have the journals. We actually have the journals that walk you through this process, right? To really help you to get back into a relationship with your emotions. So again, going through these questions one more time. I'm tired of pretending what didn't hurt. So you're going to fill in the blank. I'm tired of pretending what my mom said didn't hurt. I'm tired of pretending that that breakup didn't hurt. I'm tired of pretending that the job I lost didn't hurt. I'm tired of pretending that my son's, I don't know, comment back to me didn't hurt. I'm tired of pretending that, my Losing a job didn't hurt. Like, what are you pretending didn't hurt that really did? Right. Um, I'm tired of, so then after that, the emotion that I've been avoiding is what? Have I been avoiding pain? Have I been avoiding grief? Have I been avoiding sadness? Have I been avoiding happiness? Have I been avoiding joy? Okay. Where do I feel that in my body? Right? Or where I feel this in my body is here. And then one way I can release it safely is to do what? I can dance, I can play my favorite songs, I can go talk to somebody. How can you release that safely? All right. And then freedom for me would look like what? What would freedom look like for you? Okay, so our affirmation for today: my body is safe to feel. Feeling doesn't make me fragile, it makes me human. All right, it makes me human. Intention. Today, I choose to release over suppression. Your bonus challenge: when an emotion rises today, pause. Place your hand on where you're when you feel it in your body, and then breathe into it and say, "It is safe to feel." All right, it is safe to feel. And then I have that call, that challenge, and that charge. What truth? And so I'm calling and asking, what truth are you walking away with today? Your challenge for today is write the sentence, "I'm tired of pretending blank didn't hurt," and then let your body excel. Let your body excel on paper. All right. And then your charge for today: go shape your life. Go shape your life. Not by holding everything together, but by letting it go. But by letting it go. Listen, here's your reminder. You've called it fatigue, but it's actually emotional constipation. And your body has been speaking what your soul was silenced to say at a very young age, or maybe in your last relationship, or even you told it that to keep it safe. All right. And when you stop pretending that you're fine, your body can finally stop screaming through symptoms. All right. Feelings don't make you work. They make you whole. All right. So feelings don't make you work. They make you whole. So if you're not a part of the Facebook community, make sure you go into that Facebook community, because there's going to be a discussion post in there where we're going to talk about the gap between who you are and who you're pretending to be. If you want to be a part of that, post, make sure you join the Elevate in Life group at Elevate in Life with SheilaLittle.com. If you haven't already, make sure you go subscribe to the YouTube channel, and make sure you invite a friend, right? Invite a friend to that Elevate in Life group. And here's your takeaway: your body has been holding what your heart couldn't say. So today, you give it permission to be released. And tonight, place your hand on your chest and whisper, "I feel safe. I'm safe to feel, and I'm held as I'm healed," because you are. And this lesson is your permission slip to stop holding and truly start healing. Before we go, I want you to know that if you can shape it in your mind, you can have it in your life. I love you. I love you. I love you. Next week, we're talking about, I want to say, inspiration, right? The weight we carry in our inspiration and motivation. I think that's what we're talking about. I love you. I love you. I love you. And I will see you next Monday, or this Monday, or Monday, right, for that life lesson. I thank you for your engagement. I'll see you next week. Till later.